Good evening, folks. Thursday again, and I am your host, Mohammed Faheem, with my co-host, Pastor Lawrence Blackful Jr., and one of our regular participants on the virtual American Town Hall, Ken DeLuc, who is with New York Life, joining us live. And we are going to be having some more people joining us as the clock ticks by. Again, this is the virtual American Town Hall. It is your forum to come and talk about issues and not just talk about issues, but to come up with some solutions at the grassroots level. Let's see what we can do to make a change in this great country that we call as our home. And today, especially, I wanted to talk about a couple of ideas that we had discussed. A lot of people, are talking about universal health care. Okay. And in our last meeting, we kind of discussed as to, yeah, universal healthcare sounds good. Who's going to pay for it? So, Ken, you had some suggestions as to how the insurance industry needs to be reformatted, for lack of a better word.
All right, basically, let's look at a real simple illustration here. Let's say John Smith has a job. He gets paid in salary $7 an hour, and he gets in healthcare benefits $3 an hour. Okay.
Okay.
Let's say, for argument's sake, that the actual cost of that healthcare is $1.50.
Okay.
Now, who makes that other $1.50? Well, as it turns out, the other $1.50 is made by the insurance companies. Okay. Now, in every other country that has universal health care, they've basically taken that person out of the equation. So let's look at what would happen if all of a sudden you can flip a magic switch. Now he's paying $7.50, he's getting $7 an hour, and he's got to pay an extra $1.50 in taxes. But the corporation, who no longer has that $3 tax burden on them, or the healthcare cost burden on them, can in turn give that $1.50 and maybe even a raise to that employee. So bottom line is, his health insurance, he may have to pay more in taxes, but he's making more money in income because now that money's freed up from the corporation to pay him that extra amount of money. It's not going to affect their bottom line at all. And now, the insurance company loses, the corporations and the employees win. Very simple equation there.
Okay. So one of the things that I was discussing with John Lash, who's running for mayor of Aurora last week, was the fact of, having a livable basic minimum wage. And some good points came off of that discussion. If people are making a basic livable minimum wage, then they are working 40 hours a week. They are not doing 2 or 3 jobs, to keep food on the table and take care of their families. So when that is happening, the parents are actually spending a lot more time with their kids. And that is also going to impact on, the other factors of gang violence and all of that. When kids don't have, a parent at home when they come home from school, then they're going to hang out with their buddies, right? And get into trouble. So now that ball keeps rolling down the hill, and your costs are going up for the regular police, the law enforcement, the incarceration, all of those factors. So if we guarantee this basic minimum income, which is a livable wage, it is going to create a lot more, how do I put it? It's going to create a greater impact on the economy than you can even hope to imagine. Now, some people, especially on the, on the right, argue that, yeah, no, you cannot have, $15 an hour, because that's going to drive businesses out of business. logically that doesn't make sense, right? I mean, if your other expenses of incarceration and policing and all of that are dropping down, then people have more money to spend. Just think about it along those lines.
Well,
So,
think
folks,
about this. Think
yeah,
about this, Mohammed. There are people who are opposed to a minimum wage hike, minimum wage increase, and for the very things that you're talking about in terms of, crime going up, violence going up, the cost of law enforcement, things of that nature. Some of the very people
hmm
have a vested interest in those things happening. When you think about the privatization of prisons and how invested that has become big business. Some of the wealthy in this country have tremendous stock in the prison
hmm
system and the pipeline from basically from the cradle into the prison system.
yep,
Let me bring up another really big point on this. If you give somebody a $15 an hour minimum wage, what is going to happen to the big bulk of that money that person is making? It's not going to go into his investment portfolio. It's going to go directly right back into the economy. For every $15 he gets, $14.95 is going to be put right back into the economy, which means everyone's going to win. The corporations are going to win. The businesses are going to win. Everybody's going to win. It'll be better for everyone. That's going to be a positive, not a negative in the long run.
Agree. And I think that about 60% of America agrees to that. Based on some of the research recently, I believe it was a little over like 59.4% of Americans agreed with raising the minimum wage to $15 an hour. Now, as you all know, we've had this recent ruling by the
Parliamentarian.
the parliamentarian. That's right, the Senate parliamentarian, or the Senate parliamentarian, that says that this cannot be included in the current
stimulus bill.
bill that has been presented, which was, I believe, the American Recovery Act. But however, what we do know about this, even though it can't be included in the bill, or at least the parliamentarian ruled against it, it could have still been introduced in with that bill. However, it creates a different conversation in the House than over into the Senate. And while it can pass through the House, it did not stand a chance in passing the Senate, and that was the major concern. But however, it's still a conversation that has to be held now. And because this administration, Joe Biden, has committed to supporting a minimum wage increase to $15 an hour, the conversation now becomes, how do we make it happen? Because we don't know what's going to happen with elections that are coming up in 2 years. Mm-hmm. If this is going to happen, it probably needs to happen before this next election comes up.
It needs to happen now.
Absolutely.
Because and again, the simple fact, it's simple math, guys. A rising tide is going to lift all boats.
No doubt.
Right?
No doubt.
So why is the Republicans so hell-bent on opposing this? Like you're saying, Pastor Blackful, the prison system has been privatized to a very large extent. And if you guys remember some of the numbers that I shared with you, a few weeks back, that in Cook County, the average cost to house one prisoner is over $50,000 per year. Mm-hmm. In the IDOC, Illinois Department of Corrections, you're looking close to $45,000 and up for one prisoner. Okay, so there's this whole system that is geared towards keeping people locked up, denying their basic civil rights. And, we'll come to that in a minute as to what is happening with the voter suppression that is going on,
Yes,
you
absolutely.
know, at the moment. So typically it looks like 10% of the country is trying to tell the other 90% how we can live.
Hmm.
How fair is that? It is the tail wagging the dog.
Well, when you think about it, Mohammed, and some of the question, while we may see it as simple, and this should be an easy fix and something that everyone should be able to get behind, and that is when we lift up we're only as strong as our weakest link, and
Correct.
when we lift up the bottom half of us, or the everyone is lifted up. However, think about it. For years, there's been a direct effort to suppress and oppress people of color, black folk in particular, and which again, when blacks are raised up, when blacks have equal access and and opportunity, everyone wins. However, that continual effort to oppress people of color, it continues, not because it's in anyone's best interest, but simply because of racial tactics that continue to be at play, and an environment that's been alive and well in this country for hundreds of years. And that's something that we still have to address, is the inequities that continue to persist in our country, especially as it relates to economics.
Yeah, fine. Good evening. I'm sorry, last week I missed to attend.
Good evening, Pete. Good evening.
Yeah.
One of the things that, Pete, before you start talking, Ken had a suggestion that you should have a lamp pointed at your face, because that light that you have up there is kind of shining on your head, and we can't really see,
Yeah, Pete, everybody thinks you're in witness protection. It's not a good look.
Okay,
So-
I'll bring the lamp. Okay, give me 1 minute, I'll bring it.
Yeah, so bring a lamp because we want to see your face, man. Come on.
Okay, sure.
Okay. Meanwhile, we got Joe finally joining us under his own name again, twice in a row. So, Joe, you need to do a backflip for us. We can't hear you though.
Joe, you're on mute. You're on mute, Joe.
Okay.
No, I can't see Joe yet. Okay,
No, I can see him, but he needs to unmute himself.
got it.
Yeah. Go on gallery view, Lawrence.
I
Up
got
there.
it now. I'm in.
Can you hear me now?
All right.
Got it.
Yeah, I always try to see that, Joe, if you can unmute yourself, man, we want to hear your views on that. Like I said, you are the young Turk on the panel. Okay.
There he is.
No, he's still trying to figure out his audio.
Hey, I like your virtual background, by the way, Mohammed. I like it.
Yeah, that's a new studio I'm sitting in.
Hey, I love it.
Okay. Yeah, I'm getting smarter as I grow old, I guess.
Oh man, y'all done got Peter left. All right, there he is. Man, Pete,
Oh.
you a good-looking guy.
Okay, Pete. Now
Man,
you
have that good-looking face.
yeah, you lower your camera a little bit so we can see a little bit more of you. There you go.
Okay, all right.
He didn't move that camera. He
Okay.
didn't move that camera. He moved
I just
the
wanted
light.
to have some thought on this minimum wage and other things.
Well, if everybody
First of
Oh,
all,
here we go. Here we go. He gone.
I'm looking at a different angle, minimum wage. First of all, it is not a black and white issue. It is purely an economic issue. And the minimum wage, why half of the America wants minimum wage, there are small owners of the companies, and the moment they increase from $7 to $15, they think that they may not be able to make profit. They have to raise the price, like a restaurant and other things. But also they are wrong, but I will come back to that one. Instead of we addressing the minimum wage, why did we come with the word minimum wage? Why it is minimum? Minimum is to keep body and soul surviving, living. That money is required to keep our body and soul together. And also, my definition is that minimum wage is required to live with dignity and independently, economic independence. If you want person to be dependent on the state or anything, then you come below the minimum wage. That wage should be defined such a way that that should be enough for to keep the person and the individual person without begging or borrowing or dependent on others, and also keep his dignity high. He doesn't have to steal. He doesn't have to rob. So that is the minimum wage.
Pete, one of the things that you missed, initially when we were talking about, you came in a little bit late. That is exactly what we were discussing. That if someone is making a livable wage, they don't have to work 2 or 3 jobs to put
Right.
food on the table. Okay, so mom and dad are coming home after a 40-hour job. The children are there at home, and the parents are there to take care of the children. The children are not going around joining gangs because they don't have any social life, at home.
Mhm.
So the expenses of policing, the expenses
Yeah,
of
yeah, I got that point.
incarcerating,
Yeah,
all of those factors
yeah,
are going to impact and
yeah.
come down. Oh, look at how handsome Joe looks now, man. That light is really
All
shining
right,
right off
that's
of the
it. We
top of
got
your
you,
head now,
Joe.
Joe.
Yeah.
uh, Folks, Joe
Fine, what
is
I can.
a one sec. Joe is a professional. What are you, Joe? A professional mascot.
Professional mascot.
Mm-hmm.
Okay,
Yeah, I'm a
professional
professional
mascot.
mascot. Yeah.
Okay. And what are the teams that you mascot for?
Uh, hello.
So I started off with the University of Oregon, the Ducks, and then that was what started my whole career because they happen to be one of the most famous collegiate mascots in the nation. So I was with the Oregon Ducks. Then I went with a minor league team out there on the West Coast, who happened to be a AAA affiliate of the Cubs, and we won our championship the same year the Cubs won. So that was really awesome. I got a championship ring and back, which
Wow,
is yeah, it's amazing. It's
that's
really fun.
cool.
Yeah, and then so now I'm here in Chicago, and I mascot for Jewel Osco, the whole chain. I do all their corporate events. I do their all the sponsorships, all the commercials, the different stuff. You'll see me on like passing on a truck or a billboard. That's me, which is kind of funny to think. And
Well, Joe,
then
let me ask you this. Okay, what do you
yes,
think? I mean, what we were saying was that if we have, guaranteed livable minimum wage, it could be 15, it could be 20, it could be $25, folks. So don't hold me to the 15. A rising tide will lift all boats. When people have more money coming in, and the state is not spending so much money trying to maintain law and order, they're going to be spending the money right back in their neighborhood. But
yeah,
these money bags who are bankrolling elections and getting their people elected, they don't want to see this happen because then they lose their power. And, so the guy making $15 an hour is not going to be investing in stocks and bonds in the market unless it is GameStop. Okay, but that has been an aberration recently. Okay. Uh, so this idea of having a livable minimum wage is going to have a huge impact on even Medicare for all. The growth of proper jobs and unemployment. People don't have to work 2, 3 jobs, making $7, $8 somewhere, and working 60, 70 hours with no guaranteed health care. Just think about it. Okay, if we can all progress as a country,
And
what is the
think
harm in
about
it?
this, you all. How many of us could live even on $15 an hour? How many of us? I mean, I know that that's the figure that's being proposed, but think about even $15 an hour. While it would be substantial, to those who are making, you know, $7, $8, $9 an hour right now. You know, it will raise them up, but we have to also address the inequities in our taxing system as well, because individuals who are able to make a few more dollars an hour is going to typically pay more in taxes. And so how do we, in addition to increasing the minimum wage, how do we reduce the amount of taxation on these same individuals as well? Because I think that's where we will see the true economic impact.
Faheem, I have one point, the solution for minimum wage.
Go ahead, Pete.
So the solution is, you know, it is a little more hybrid kind of solution is required. Let's assume that half of the population, as on my earlier point, do not want to increase minimum wage because there is a fear of losing the job, or they want to fire and reduce the staff. That is one fear is there. But that, and the other one is that, people is that, we have a social cost, as you rightly pointed out, policing and other expenses, related expenses will go up because crime will increase. So to reduce the people commit crime only because they are half of them are forced to commit because they don't have money to eat anything. Stealing comes because of the compulsion. They have to survive. Survival instinct power is higher than the, somebody, if it's not given to me easily, I'll grab it somewhere. If they're comfortable enough, they will not attempt to steal.
You know, Pete, that is exactly what, we were talking about.
So our solution is that if we are thinking of all these 50 years, 100 years on minimum wage, we never thought about a maximum wage. Word minimum and maximum are opposite each other. So maximum wage, you can earn anything, sky is the limit. But that limit comes with exploiting many people, putting as much as possible push down, then few people can go up. So that is simple mathematics. So if we are intelligent human being, we should have fixed this solution long ago. 250 years have gone for our constitution. If person can make $10 million, $100 million, I bet they cannot, if we give them money in the dollar, in $1 each, let them count and take. Their heartbeat in 100 years only less than 6 billion times. But whereas people have got 30 billion, 40 billion dollars, if you ask them to take, whole life they have to spend time to count the money and take it. That much they are earning disproportionately without any logic. And did they earn the money? No. The system has created so that they can make it. There is a
right, Pete, and you use a very critical word over there, the system.
Yes.
And now the system has been created by these people who are trying to make the rules, and they make the rules for themselves. Now, whatever crumbs fall off the table, people go and lap it up, and then these other people turn around and say, hey, you know what? We are creating a society that depends on the state. Okay, that is a fallacy that needs to be addressed at the state, the local, the national level.
Yes.
Anytime that we get a forum, we should be talking about that. And basically, when they say that, Pete, it is implied racism. I mean, they mean, African-American Black people. That's what they mean, that these people are lazy. They want the state to feed them. They don't want to work. Whereas it has been comprehensively proven that when you give people, let's switch gears from minimum to a universal basic income.
Yeah, I want to add one more point for that actually, before that. See, when I said maximum, system is required to address that one. But instead of minimum and maximum, I want to address the fear of the people who are losing job. And fear of the other people also. If we have a ratio between minimum and maximum, that ratio can be standardized. I don't expect CEO to get $7 or $15 or $20, but at the same time, I don't want a CEO to get $1 million. And at the same time, bottom man should live with dignity independently without depending on the society. So how we can do is ratio. if you
Pete,
no,
let me address what you just said right there real quick about the reason is that
I'm
they're
giving
Okay,
a solution.
30-second remarks,
Yeah,
guys,
yeah.
not
If,
2 minutes. Okay,
yeah,
30
if,
seconds. Make your
if,
point.
if you have,
Otherwise,
yeah, if you have a company of
Joe is going to do a backflip on us. Go
sure.
ahead, Ken.
If you have a company of 100 employees, you can fix the ratio minimum and maximum 10 times only. If you have employees of 1,000 people, maybe 20 times, maybe 10,000 people, 50
Hey,
times.
Pete, there is a difference between a capitalistic society
No, I'm
and
committed
a
with them.
communist society.
No,
Let's
no, no,
not
I'm not
go
saying communist.
to that
The reason,
extreme, okay?
no, I'm giving a logic. The logic is that when you have 1,000 employees companies, your highest, if you have minimum is $15, top guy CEO can get 10 times or 100 times. So he will be tempted to hire more people in order to increase his salary. And that is how, if he reduces the salary, so he will be getting less. So the temptation will come because of the ratio, number one.
Okay, Ken
Number
had a
two,
point. Hang on, one point at a time. Ken, you wanted to respond to Pete.
You had mentioned that on the minimum wage, people are afraid to raise it because they're going to lose their jobs. Well, think about that logically. Are you not going to go to the donut shop to buy your donuts because you have to pay another 30 cents or 20 cents or something? Those jobs aren't going to be lost. If those jobs are of value to society, society is going to keep them. And if they have to pay a little bit more to get them, I don't think that's really an issue. Now, on the other point that you're making, Pete, as far as minimum wage is X amount, and then the highest wage is 100 times that amount or whatever, you're talking about salaried employees, and for the most part, except for a few exceptions and some CEOs, that is kind of the way corporations are structured. But the majority of the super wealthy are basically either entrepreneurs or they inherited it, so they'll fall outside of that whole concept that you're bringing up anyways.
And the fact that we are a capitalistic society, it gives any individual the opportunity to earn as much as they would like to earn and is willing to invest their time, energy, talents in order to earn. And so I think that what we have to really take a look at is there are some things that we can change. There are some things that we will never change. And one thing we will never change or limit is how much people will be able to make in the United States of America. However, I think that one of the things that has come up in recent elections and has been a conversation throughout our country for an extended amount of time now is the fact of restructuring our tax codes and the way we are taxed. And there's no reason in the world that individuals who are making $15 an hour or people who are making $30,000 a year should be taxed at the same rate, or that, you know, individuals who are making millions of dollars. And I know that there are variations based on how much you actually earn, but I do believe that there is some merit in a tax on the rich and the wealthy, that they should pay more because they earn more, and that ultimately the lower earners should be able to pay less. I think that there is some merit there, and most people who of wealth are open to paying more taxes in order to make life for everyone better.
yeah, I think, you know, what you said about taxes, I 100% agree with you. There has to be a completely restructuring of taxes. People with a higher level, they're not paying tax, I agree. But as far as minimum and maximum wage, I had another point. Suppose you have companies, just, you know, a small store you opened, coffee shop or something. But your income, you cannot justify to pay $15 or something, but you cannot accept to take the $1 million. So if you have a ratio, what would happen? Suppose you are paying $5 minimum wage. Let's say you can afford $5. But as the owner of the company, you cannot take more than 5 times, maybe $25 an hour. I put ratio of 5 or 10%, 10 times. And in order to get you more money, you have opened a business to earn money. So you are bound to increase the minimum wage. Otherwise, the ratio is not maintained. The law is required to maintain the ratio, not the minimum and maximum. Leave open. Don't fix the maximum wage. That is
Well,
what,
Pete,
don't
in
fix
the country that we live in,
no, no.
that is never ever going to fly. Okay,
True.
so let's talk about practical solutions.
Many.
One of the things that I would say, practically speaking, okay,
Yeah, yeah.
that's not going to work. You cannot
No,
go and tell me that, hey, Mohammed, you are making,
my point is that you don't fix the maximum wage because it's a capitalist society. You don't fix the minimum wage also, but you put the ratio. Ratio is
you cannot do that, Pete. You cannot do that. You cannot dictate
Mohammed,
that. Yes, sir.
can you let me share the screen for just 10 seconds? I want to show you guys the graphic.
Okay, let me see how I can do that. Hold on one sec. Okay. Okay, I'm going to make you a co-host so you can go ahead and do this. So you're co-hosted now, Ken.
Okay, I got you. All right, this is historically from 1933 to 2019 where the tax rates have been and where they're going or where you think they might be going. I just wanted to show this to you where the minimum tax rate is in the blue, and then there's been times where the upper people in the highest tax rate up to about 1963 were paying as much as 90% of their income. So historically, we do have a track record going back of more wealthy people paying higher amounts of taxes, but you can see ever since the 80s and the Bush administration and stuff, the first one came in, they've basically done everything they could to make the richest people, tethered down quite a bit. So I just wanted to show you that. It's an interesting graphic.
Thank you so much for sharing that, Ken. Folks, this is so important. Okay, great. And we need to understand the country that we are living in. Why are we allowing people to have that much power over us? So, Pete, one of the things that I was very interested in, and you brought it up, quite some time back, about Andrew Yang and his thought about having universal basic income. And we have been talking about that. Alaska has had that for 20 years now, almost 2 decades. There is a caucus of 33 mayors around the country now that are kind of working and discussing this policy as we speak also. So people are starting to take notice. Now let's look at the benefits of the universal basic income. It's not a handout.
Yeah.
What I want to do that, here's what my thought was. And guys, please chime in with your feedback on this. If we can make it to where that a person who is getting this universal basic income, number one, is a registered voter. Okay, you have to register to vote, and not just register to vote, you have to come out and vote. Okay, and we got systems in place right now that can track going back years as to what whether you have voted in the primary or general election, what ballots you pulled. Doesn't matter who you vote for. Now, I'm pretty sure our friends, on the right are going to hate this argument, because the more voters, okay, that are registered to vote and people actually vote, they're going to lose their power. Again, the tail is wagging the dog in our country, folks.
Well, when we take a look at that point, Mohammed,
yes,
right
sir.
now, and I maybe this is where you're going, we're dealing with right now, especially in light of our November 6th election, is there's always been an effort, mainly from the GOP, to suppress the vote in non-white communities, especially among African Americans. When we think about the Civil Rights Act of 1964, you were asking about that earlier.
Correct, and that was the voting rights and non-discrimination, right, and all of those things.
Absolutely.
Title VII.
And so, with that being said, voter suppression continues to be an issue even to this day. Ken and I were just talking a couple days ago regarding this. When we look at it right now, there are over 100 pieces of legislation that has been introduced, and mainly at the state level throughout the country, in 43 states, I believe it is, throughout the country. Over 100 pieces of legislation being proposed by the GOP to suppress the vote and to make it more difficult, not easier, for people to participate in the process. And why is that? Simply because the results were shown in this most recent election is that when you get more people participating, then it doesn't bode well for those who have been responsible for trying to suppress votes for so many years. And
Perfect example is Georgia.
Exactly. And even right now, Ken can probably speak to this a bit further, but there's legislation and a case before the Supreme Court that's being argued right now. And
Yeah,
he can talk about that.
it just made my mind explode the other day when I heard this. The Supreme Court justice asked the attorney that was representing the GOP, well, why are you bringing this up? And he quite blatantly just said, well, the bottom line is, if we don't get this legislation passed, it's going to be good for the Democrats and the Republicans can't win, which to parse it means we cannot steal the election unless you let us steal the election.
Right.
You know, and it's like, really? You know, it's like,
and what's happening there is the GOP is recognizing that the more people participate in the process, the more people who are engaged in the process, the greater the likelihood that they will lose. And therefore, in order to reduce the number of people who are participating in our democracy, let's require certain IDs. Let's reduce the number of people who qualify to vote via mail and early voting. Let's reduce the number of polling places where people can vote. And this goes back to, again, this suppression hits at the core of everything that we're talking about today. Because if you reduce the participation or the people who are elected, that Black folk, brown folk who they want to elect, if you suppress their vote and they can't elect their desired candidates to represent them, then other folk will have to represent them, and they are going to enact laws and tax laws and other legislation that is not going to be in their interest. And that's why we have to make sure that we are addressing these issues, that we are shedding light on these voter suppression tactics that's happening across our country, especially in states like Georgia and Texas and other places that right now are really blatant, Wisconsin, who are really out to minimize the number of Black folk who are participating in the process.
Well, and it goes across the board also, Pastor Blackful. You know, I want to change gear a little bit over here and talk about the people now have been so weaponized against people of color, against immigrants. There have been random acts of violence against people of Asian descent all across the country now. What is driving that? What is fueling it? Okay, our dearly departed president, may God rest him in peace in Mar-a-Lago, and not bring him out of that place for forever and forever. Always promises to walk with the people and do things with them, and then he skulks away because he is a coward, basically. Okay, and so is his entire family. These goofballs.
the short answer to that question.
Go ahead, please.
The short answer to that question you just asked, okay, very simply, is that president gave people the permission to be bigots. He gave them permission to let their worst side come to the surface, and that's why you're seeing what you're seeing right now. He led by his own example. And, in the past, people would think twice about it. They don't have, all the brakes are off.
And so, and that being said, Ken, think about this, you all. And Mohammed, you just asked about or mentioned the attacks on the Asian community today. Right now, we're in the midst of the worst pandemic this country has ever, and actually our world has ever seen. And so that being said now, the pandemic, what did our president call it? He called it the China virus.
Yep.
And so what happens is folk who are angry and upset that they have to wear a mask, that they have to socially distance, that they can't go into their favorite restaurant and bar and engage like they typically would. These folk who are so angry about this, they are associating their anger with where they believe this thing started, which is associating it with China, and anyone who is from China or any other Asian country that they may think is Chinese or has something to do with this virus are feeling the wrath of this ignorance.
Well, the same thing that the same game that they played after 9/11 also, that anybody who had a beard was assumed to be a Muslim. A lot of the Sikh people from India got caught up in that. And, you know, again, the whole story is driven to divide people and not to bring them together, because when people come together and they make a fist, yeah, you're going to lose your power, right?
That's right.
So let's switch gears again a little bit. Joe has been intently trying to dig something out from his nose. Joe, did you find those or not?
Find which ones?
I don't know. You were trying to dig into your nose a few minutes back.
Damn Zoom.
Unbelievable.
But honestly
Don't quit
speaking,
your day job, Mohammed.
so I was kind of trying to figure out what the heck is Joe trying to dig out of his nose now.
He's putting Joe on blast.
Okay. But coming back to, again, the topics that we are discussing, folks, this is the Virtual American Town Hall.
Yes.
We have nothing against the right or the left, okay? We are Americans.
Yes.
And what is in the best interest of the country? What can make us, you know, really, really survive and thrive and leave a better country for our children and grandchildren? We have to decide that.
That being said, you know what? And shifting gears again, I want to acknowledge something that took place on this week that we were made aware of. I don't know how many of you all watched the Rachel Maddow show, but I'm an avid fan of Rachel Maddow, and I watch her show every night on MSNBC. For the first time ever, MSNBC was the highest rated or most watched news station or I believe station on cable. But the Rachel Maddow show was the #1 watched show on all of cable TV. And so why that for me is very important is I know the kind of research and the kind of information that and the kind of people that Rachel brings onto her show and how informed they are. But it says that a great majority of our society is being exposed to that kind of information, which gives me hope, gives me encouragement, because people are being informed or are being exposed to quality reporting. And when we are exposed to quality reporting, when we're exposed to truth and integrity, I think that it just makes us better as a country, instead of the slant, the bias that we see sometimes on other networks.
Well, MSNBC, MSNBC has also brought in Mehdi Hassan with a new show. If you get a chance, watch this guy. I mean, well-spoken, very well informed, And those are the kind of people that we need to pay attention to and listen and learn from.
No doubt.
Not these jokers on Fox News. I'm sorry. I mean,
I tried not to mention them.
well, that's why I'm not even taking.
I like your restraint. That was very impressive.
Again, do join us by going to the website, which is thevath.com, the virtual American townhall.com. You can sign on to come in as a participant. John Petrick has been driving, and he says he'll join us next week. Bring your thoughts to us, bring your ideas to us. It's a conversation. This is not a one-way street,
And we got to mention that we are totally missing John Runyon tonight.
John Runyon tonight.
So
and
let's not forget about John.
I'll call him up and see what is he up to. I mean,
Yes.
Being an attorney, he's constantly busy, and I can understand, the sacrifice that he makes, by coming and talking to us every week. Again, great people.
Absolutely.
So keep in touch with us. Let us know what we can do. Local elections are coming up. April 6th is the municipal elections. Early voting, vote by mail has already started. Folks, you don't know how good you have it in this country when you have the right to go out and vote. Not too many countries in the world give their citizens this opportunity. This is a golden right that people fought for years. And if you don't use it, you're going to lose it. And you're going to lose it to the worst kind of people who make politics and being in office their ultimate goal in life. They're there forever, okay? I was looking at the production of some of the Congress people who are currently in Congress for over 2 terms, okay? If you look at what they're producing, and we have discussed this in the past also, if you were their employer and they were working for you, you would throw them out in a nanosecond. They spend the majority of their time either just asking for money to stay back in office and taking these huge payoffs from corporations. Just to give you an example, guys, our congressman in the 8th district that I'm planning on challenging, Raja Krishnamurthy, I was looking at his reports that he has to file with the Federal Election Commission as to where are your donors, who is donating. Of the top 10 donors that he is showing on his return, 8 of them are actually related to the pharma industry.
Can you repeat that?
Of the top 10 donors to Raja Krishnamurthy's campaign in the last few years, 8 of them, that is 80%, are related to the pharma industry, the pharmaceutical industry. So now you tell me, how is he going to act to bring down the prices of pharmaceuticals? Another very interesting fact that I noticed, that one of the mutual funds that he and his wife have invested in, 90% of that mutual fund is invested in Japanese manufacturing companies, not American manufacturing companies. So what interest does this person have in making sure that the pharmaceutical industry is regulated? What interest does he have in making sure that American manufacturing thrives? And people don't really know that because they don't go and dig into the details of these people, right? I'm just giving you one example. And these are publicly available numbers. I'm not, making these numbers up. You don't need a FOIA Act to go and get these numbers. And when election time comes, this guy lied right through his nose the last time. There was a debate for the candidates, Daily Herald debate. So Mr. Krishnamurthy is challenged by one of the candidates as to why does he have, around $7-8 million in his campaign fund, which is almost more than double that Dick Durbin, the senator from the state, had in his campaign fund. And his answer was that, oh, elections take a lot of money. I have to run a statewide campaign. No, you don't. You have to run a campaign only in the 8th district, and you are running unopposed. The Republicans had not fielded a candidate. So where's the money coming from, Raja? What have you been doing? And he comes back and says, oh, no, I get a lot of small donations. This has to stop. And this is something that I am going to be, very seriously challenging again in the next primary that is going to happen in 2022. But it is just one example of one congressman. And you can multiply that across the board to over 500 people in Congress, except a few, and these are being batted down like, oh, these people are the squad, these people are the this, and these people are the that. We need to bring this out also in public, in open.
Well, before we close for tonight, I believe that we're coming up on that time. I wanted to touch on a couple of things. Number one, today, March 4th, at the Capitol, the schedule for the Capitol was altered because of the threats by white supremacists and other militia and groups that threatened to overtake the Capitol again. To this point, I'm not aware of anything to that effect that has happened. And I had no concern because they were only able to do what they did on January 6th because they had an administration in place that enabled, supported, and opened the door for that to be possible. And today we have a different administration in place. We are prepared with our National Guard as well as other law enforcement entities. And what I find is that those individuals who stormed the Capitol and those insurrectionists, they were cowards. They knew that we weren't going to be prepared. They knew that they could overtake the number of officers that were available. But now with over 5,000 National Guards troops in DC, they don't show up.
No, and don't forget that Tweety Bird is, in a cage right now. So,
Absolutely.
Okay.
And so the difference here is leadership. Leadership makes a difference.
You are so right.
Elections have consequences. And today we are in a better place. Our capital is in a safer place, not simply because of the date, but simply because of the leadership of our country today.
You're so very right. And folks, leadership starts at the local municipal level, goes up to the state level, then the national level. Make sure that, number one, you're exercising your right to vote. Make sure that you are researching the people that you're going to be casting your vote for. Make sure that you elect the right people to represent you. Please do some research. If you need to ask questions, reach out to somebody that you trust, get their opinions. With social media now, it's an open book that you can go and research any candidate's background to see who they are.
I'm not sure if we want to refer them to social media for their research.
Well, I mean, that is, but you can see what they have said, what they have done, who they have supported. And like I said, especially on the financial
we
aspect.
can't trust the data. We can't trust with social media.
No, I'm talking about
we can't
also
trust
the.
that information.
I'm also talking about the financial reportings that the candidates have to do, Pastor Blackful,
Right,
from
the
the
open
state
source
election.
data that's available. Absolutely, I
Yeah,
agree.
yeah,
Yeah,
state
we
election
should.
commission, the federal
Yes,
election commission,
yes.
and next time around, I'll just give you guys some screenshots. I'll share some screenshots of what I referred to,
Mhm.
for this.
I
So the
have one more
people,
thing, Mohammed, before we
go ahead.
go. I want to just extend a congratulations to our Congresswoman from the 2nd Congressional District, Robin Kelly, who
Yep,
was elected to be the chair of
the
the
chair of the
Illinois
Illinois.
Democratic Party on last night.
Absolutely. I'm so glad. I'm so glad you brought it up. Looks like at the state level there is some, cleaning going up, especially with Madigan, forced to resign for lack of a better word. I don't think that he quit voluntarily.
Agreed.
Okay, and hopefully things will start looking up for us. There's a huge hill to climb for the state folks.
Mhm.
Uh, you know, they're trying to do good things, but they've got a legacy of bad decisions that they have to overcome. With that, let us wind up for tonight. And I am your host, Mohammed Faheem, with my co-host, Pastor Lawrence Blackful Jr. We are the Virtual American Town Hall. It is your forum. Feel free to visit the website, www.thevath.com, www.thevath for the Virtual American Town Hall.com. Check us out. Most of these videos are going to be posted on our YouTube channel also, as soon as I get some time to breathe. I've been unusually busy recently with work also. This morning I spent almost 4 hours guiding people, talking to them about, you know, finding jobs in this, pandemic economy, how to, set their goals, how to rewrite their job search strategies, basically trying to guide them to, to succeed once things wind up a little bit better. I think we lost Pete, but Pastor Blackwell, if you could please lead us out into the night.
By all means, God, we thank you for this opportunity to come together. We thank you for the various views and opinions that are able to be shared on this platform. We pray that our conversation and the information that we share and that we learn will be instrumental in helping to make our communities and ultimately our country and our world a better place to live. We thank you for all who are part of this panel, those who are listening, and those who will benefit from this information. This we ask in your name. Amen.
Thank you so much. Good night, folks. Join us again next week, Thursday,
Hey,
6
hey,
p.m.
Joe, I like your
Central Standard
background,
Time.
Joe. I like your background.
Oh, thanks.
He got it. It took him the whole broadcast to get it, but he got it. You ready
Oh,
for
there
next
you go.
week? Oh
He's-
my
he's
goodness. You ready for next week, Joe?
Folks, that is Joe, and Joe is actually a professional mascot for a lot of teams and for a lot of big
He is
employers.
the mascot for the Virtual American Town Hall.
There you go. Joe, you are appointed, man. I'll talk to you later then. Okay, folks, good night.
Good night, y'all.
Night.